All right, team, so welcome to day 4 of figuring out how I'm going to make money in the next 2 months before I go bankrupt in Bali, all of 22 hours away from the UK. And today I wanted to talk about something that I think is a principle that if you can get your head around, if you can understand, if you can internalize, will determine whether you're able to become successful. And the idea here is basically about enduring pain. And this is really interesting because I just filmed this video and it just wasn't at the level I wanted. So I'm filming it again. And it's a good example of what I'm going to be sharing in this video that is going to make you successful. Or make you loads of money or give you loads of followers. And by the way, I don't have loads of followers and I don't have loads of money, but this is how I'm thinking about success so that I can become successful now after making loads of failures over the last few years. And so basically the main idea is that there's 2 types of pain, right? There is the pain of quitting something and then starting over. So for example, when I was really young, not when I was young, but like every single time that I have quit a job, it's been slightly painful because all of these thoughts come up in my head. And by the way, I've had 7 careers in the last 5 years. And so I've had loads of different jobs and none of them at some point felt right. So when I was at Kraft Heinz, I was working in the finance team and it was just sucking my soul. And I couldn't bear it. I would wake up and I would be like, I don't want to do this, and I'd feel sick. And on Sundays, I'd just get this like feeling where like, oh my God, it's Monday and I hate this. And eventually I just couldn't take it anymore. And after that whole like emotional experience of having a job that I really don't like, that's not giving me meaning, that's not giving me purpose, that I craved, I basically said, I'm not going to do it anymore. And that came with a lot of anxiety because I was like, what am I going to do? And there was a lot of thoughts that went in my head and I was like, oh my God, like what's going to happen if I don't do this? And then bearing in mind that before I had this job, I'd been failing I'd been fired and then I failed for so months. I had so many interviews and I just hadn't been able to secure a job. And so I'd worked really, 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 really hard in order to get this job, and 2 months in, it just wasn't what I wanted. So I was so excited for it, and it essentially, and I talked about this the other day, but my reality was just not meeting the expectations that I had. And it was just this feeling where like, dude, I can't do this anymore. And I know there's a lot of people that feel this way. And I have friends as well, we've spoken about it, where like there's this pain that comes with the thought of quitting something. And if you do want to live, I guess, a better life or more fulfilling life, or you want to level up, you have to get through that pain. You have to be able to say, I'm going to stop doing that. I'm going to lose my income. I'm going to basically lose all the career capital that I've built up maybe, and I'm going to start over. And for me, it was like 2 months in and I still felt that pain. But my brother, for example, he's a doctor. And after, I think, 2 years of being a junior doctor, he said, I'm not going to do it anymore. And imagine, he studied for 7 years and then for 2 years, he was in doctors, and he realized that his, I guess, reality was just not meeting the expectations that he had of being a doctor. And he'd been wanting to be a doctor since 4 years old. And so that whole process of quitting and then starting over as a consultant is painful. And so if you want to change your life, the first pain that you have to go through is the pain of quitting and then the pain of starting over. And they come hand in hand, right? Because when you quit, you start. When you quit, you start. And to be honest, in my life, like I've been pretty good at starting things, and I have craved novelty throughout my life. Looking back on it, like when I was in year 6, I was 10 years old and I was doing speed stacking, and I stacked, like basically what speed stacking is this sport, I guess. And I think there was one assembly where they showed a YouTube video of people speed stacking, and instantly I was obsessed. And I bought all the cups, I bought this mat, and basically what you got to do is you compete against the time, against the clock, or against other people, and the fastest person to stack up these cups and then stack them back down in a specific formation wins. And I got really into it. I bought all the gear. I went to a tournament even. And then after a month, I just stopped. But like maybe if I continued, and this is what I'm going to talk about in a minute, I would be a fucking professional speed stacker by now, right? And so the second pain that you have to go through, if you want to excel, if you want to become a master, if you want to become the best in the world at something or two things, is after you've endured or experienced or gone through the battle of quitting and then starting over, is the pain of boredom, the pain of endurance. And this is something that I guess I've struggled with, because I'll give you an example. When I started my fitness coaching business, I didn't really go on social media. The only social media, if you can call it social media, that I used was YouTube. And this is another example, but I'd always like wanted to be on YouTube since 2021. Maybe I think I used to watch Mike Thurston, Hamza, Ali Abdal, and I was like, oh my God, like they're on YouTube, they're getting all these, like they're making money from it, they're living this like free life or whatever. And it was like motivating for me to go towards that. And so I think it was during COVID, I filmed my first YouTube video, but then I stopped, and then I started again and started posting about my fitness journey and how I could help people and knowledge on that side of things. But then once the novelty wore off, and I still wasn't at the place that I wanted to be, I kept stopping. And there's this great idea, and I can't remember like who the idea is like written by, but there's this idea that if you get into creative work, and I think this is actually to do with sports or anything, but if you go and do this like endeavor because it intrinsically aligns with you, you probably have some taste. And you got into this like hobby for taste, right? But when you start, there's this novelty and that keeps you going, but then when you have to endure, you have this taste, right? And you're putting all this output, but it's just not at the level that you want it to be at. And so you're just sucking. And it's this pain of boredom and this pain of endurance that you have to get through if you want to win. And it's something that I'm only really internalized now. And think about this, like I've been posting on YouTube for like 4 years on and off because of this idea that I can't endure the pain and I can't endure the boredom. And so it's something I've been thinking about more, where I'm like, fuck, like if I could just endure the pain and boredom, I'd be fine, right? Because you just get through it and eventually you come out the other side and everyone thinks you're this master. But if you look at all these great people, especially at the moment, you look at Chris Williamson, you look at Stephen Bartlett, you could look at Alex Hormozy, you look at Cody Sanchez, you look at Daniel Priestley, you look at James Smith. They've all just gone through immense amounts of pain and boredom to get to where they want to be, or to get where they are. And so that is the second type of pain that you've got to go through. And the thing that's really highlighted to me that I have to go through this with my business, with my content and everything is actually, interestingly, Muay Thai. So I've been training Muay Thai, and basically with Muay Thai you have to stand up here and you have to hold this like this. And in my head I know that I shouldn't drop my hand. But even when I punch here, sometimes I drop it, especially when I'm a little bit tired. And in my head I know that I shouldn't be dropping it, but I do. And the other thing is that I sometimes, especially when I get tired, I use my hands to punch instead of my hips. But really you want to rotate and get all the power comes from your hips, right? And again, in my head, I know that I need to be doing that. I know that that's the skill, that's the technique. But putting it into practice takes time. And I think there's a delay between when your body actually does it the way that you want it to, or the way that is deemed successful, and when you know it. So you know it first, you learn it, and then it takes some time for you to do enough practice to get to the point where you're doing it perfectly. And that's the pain that you have to get through. That is the pain that you have to get through, because when there's that gap, once the novelty's worn off, once the pain of starting over is done and you've actually started, you've done maybe 5 sessions in Muay Thai and you're now just standing there in this session. I do this right now. I'm standing there in the session with my coach and he's saying, punch from your hips. And I punch and it's like, he's like, no. And I have to do it again, and I have to do it again, and I have to do it again, and I have to do it again. But this is the exact same principle that applies to every facet of life. The same with content creation. You have to go through the pain of shooting content and it not being right. And the thing is, I just shot this exact same video and it didn't come out the way that I wanted to. I was maybe talking too slow. I didn't have any passion. I had things in the background that I didn't like there. I had my plug plugged in and I had to sit down and do it again. And that, even in that instant, it was painful because I was like, fuck, man, like, seriously? I have to do it again? I mean, even getting me to this point today, like there were thoughts in my head like, oh, maybe I don't have to do it today, right? And if you can get through that pain, after the pain of starting over is got through, if you can get through the pain of enduring things, the pain of boredom, the pain of just showing up even when you don't want to, you will win over a long enough time horizon. So if there's one takeaway from this, whether you're starting out on your business journey, you're starting out on your content creation journey, you're starting out in your sporting endeavor, you're starting off in your weight loss journey, that's another one that gets boring over time because you're just doing the same thing over and over again. 10K steps, tracking your calories, eating the same foods, showing up to the gym. It's just the same thing over and over again. If you do it for long enough, if you can endure through the pain, if you can endure through the boredom, and this is why I like this idea, because it's a principle. It's a principle that applies to every single facet of life. If you can get through the pain of starting over and you can get through the pain of continuing, you will win. That's it from me today. A little bit update on the business. So AI and automation, started this in September 1st, was doing Upwork, but I mean, I did a good amount of volume on Upwork and I just found that like, you can't fully control who you reach because you're competing against other people. So I'm still going to keep doing it because I have been able to win a few clients and it's good experience and it's good exposure to understanding what people are looking for. But I'm also going to go on LinkedIn Sales Navigator. And yesterday I was approaching coaches, but I was just thinking about a coach, they're B2C most of the time, their ticket price isn't that high. It's going to be harder for me to sell something. And so I'm pivoting slightly. And again, this feels like maybe it's a novelty switch, but no, this is a strategic switch. And it's very early on because I haven't really done any experience in that domain anyway, to recruitment companies. And I've already got one other client in a recruitment space. So it kind of makes sense for me to continue on that and learn from them and then apply that to other businesses that are similar because their ticket price is way higher, and I can help them a lot more. Because there's so many more moving parts with a recruitment business than a coaching offer. And so there's a lot more opportunities for automation and AI to get involved with lead gen, sales systems, CRM systems, and all that kind of jazz. So the task for today for me is to endure through the pain of reaching out and messaging all of these recruitment companies that might not respond to me, probably won't respond to me, 99% chance won't respond to me, but there will be that one that does. And when that one does, it's going to be worth it over the next month. And so, yeah, if you're struggling with continuing, just remember that the game is to endure the pain. Peace.